Okay, I'm going to go through as many of these as we can get to basically in 2 days, helping make sure that all of you have a draft revision guide that is complete and ready to use on Thursday. So Lauren, starts off. Pick one of your 5. I don't care which. You would have to pick probably the most complex one. Let's pick a simpler one. Excellent. Okay, so I will check my draft for capitalization errors. So all of you working with capitalization errors, pay attention. Even if it's, maybe not one of the top 5, if it's somewhere on your MUGS checklist and it could be a problem somewhere in your world, you might want to pay attention to this. So capitalization errors. Who else has that on their list? Oh my gosh, almost the entire class. Okay, Joey, how would you check for capitalization errors? Is that where you fail to capitalize words? Yeah. Okay, so Joey fails to capitalize words at the beginning of a sentence. So Joey will look at the beginning of every sentence. But that's only Joey. So hold on for a second before you write anything down, except for you, Joey. I'm paying attention to you for a moment. I can do this by checking the first word of each sentence. Joey, do you make other capitalization errors, you personally?
No,
that's about it. Then that's all Joey needs to do. Joey, how long will it take you to read through a journal entry just looking at the first word of every sentence? 3 minutes? I'd say about 30 seconds. I think you could look at the first word in about 30 seconds. 15 sentences? Not a problem. It's going to take you 1 to 2 seconds to find each word. You've got about 30 seconds of proofing. That's how long it's going to take Joey to fill this step. Which step is it for you on your draft revision guide? Number 1. Number 1 will be done in 30 seconds, possibly if he has to make corrections as long as 2 minutes. That's how long it will take. Does anybody else fail to capitalize the first word of a sentence? Then none of the rest of you should be writing this down. Lauren, what's your particular capitalization problem?
In one of my journal entries, like capitalizing important words.
Okay, you mean you capitalize important words when you shouldn't?
Ancient Africa, I capitalized Egypt.
Excellent. Lauren, you will look through all of the capital letters in your writing in a journal entry. And when you're looking at the capital letters, you look at the ones inside sentences because you know the ones at the beginning of sentences have to be capitalized. You'll gloss over the I's really quickly. What you'll focus on are words that you've capitalized, and what question are you asking yourself about those words? What's the technical grammar term for nouns that should be capitalized? Proper versus common. Okay, so check all capital letters inside sentences. That's for Lauren. Does anybody else in here randomly capitalize words that should not be capitalized? Then all of you should probably be writing this down too. Pause for a moment and reflect on what we're doing. I'll finish capitalization errors in a moment. But think about what we're doing here. You are making a draft revision guide that is based upon your own particular weaknesses. In other words, it's going to be a lot more effective. If I were telling you all of you to look at the first word of every sentence, then I would only really be speaking to one student in the class, and that's Joey. And I'd be wasting the rest of your time. So let's not waste your time. I don't want Lauren to waste her time because then writing becomes a burden for her and it takes too much time and she doesn't want to do it. I want her revision process to go smooth and quick and effective so that she can do that. And now she's going to sort of put filter on. I love filters when I'm reading. Filters make my life so much easier. So If I'm reading your paper and I'm only looking for one thing, I can get through your paper so quickly. When I have to look for 10 different things at a time, it's so slow and cumbersome. But if I'm only looking for one, fast, easy. Like those sentence variety revisions that you did, that I was able to plug through those pretty quickly. You'll get those back tomorrow. Because I was only looking for one issue, sentence variety. So it's fast. So Joey's going to get through for his capitalization proofing really quickly, and Lauren's going to get through hers maybe a little bit more slowly, but not very slowly at all. A journal entry, 2 or 3 minutes for her. Easy. Somebody tell me another capitalization problem that you have. Something that is different. Harold. Random letters like inside words? Is that the same sort of thing as what Lauren's dealing with? No, she's randomly capitalizing words that she thinks are important. Like words, like her example is perfect. Ancient in ancient Africa, she thinks ancient is important, and it is important, but it's technically not a proper noun. So you have the same issue? So you're dealing with the same revision. Any other particularities about your capitalization problems? Yes, Drew. Micah. Why do I keep doing that? I don't know. Sorry, Micah. Go ahead. Excellent. Not excellent that you do it, of course, but excellent that you recognize that you do it. Mike is looking for the proper nouns. Can you give me an example, Mike, of a proper noun that you failed to capitalize in a writing? French. Excellent. So Mike is looking for all the proper nouns in his writing. And so he's going to, when he's looking through, he's going to scan past words like the, and he's going to scan past words like in or of. And he's only looking for those big nouns. And then he's going to ask himself the question, is this proper? And he's smart enough, he'll take a look at the word French, and he'll say, no, it is a proper noun. I made a mistake, I've got to capitalize it. It's not that Micah doesn't know what to do. It's that Micah doesn't slow down, as the rest of you don't, and take a look back at the writing. And if he did, he'd be able to find those errors and fix them. Any other capitalization problems that you're facing? I know one that students, anybody fail to capitalize the word I? Anybody doing, B, doing that? B, why do you do that? Oh, come on, students do that all the time now. Nowadays, they do that all the time. Why? But what would give them that impression, Jacob? I'm thinking something connected to modern technology. Abby? Because you don't capitalize I when you text. Because capitalization mechanics start to go out the window when you're texting all the time. Except for me, of course, all my texts are grammatically correct. But yours, probably you don't capitalize I. You probably use the letter U instead of writing out U. I walk down the halls of McCourt Junior High and look at all the signs on the lockers and realize you folks do not know how to spell the word your. Why has chat contributed to that? Why has texting contributed to that? Abby, how do you spell your in a text? Really? I don't think so. Thank you. You spell it like this. At least that's how I don't, and maybe Abby, you don't either. Maybe you and I are obsessive enough to actually spell out a word and take that time. But many people I see texting just use the shortcut. So they don't realize that when you're writing a locker sign that says this, you've just made a spelling mistake. Should be that, right? I don't really blame you folks all of it. It's technically not your fault because you're working, you do write, but you write in text. So one of the places where that becomes a problem with capitalization mechanics, especially, is the word I. if I can. So perhaps B and maybe some others in the room might be looking for that word and capitalizing it. Any other particular capitalization problems that you're having? No? Okay, if you have a capitalization error listed on your draft revision guide, you should now have that filled in with some sort of concrete and specific strategy. Turn your draft revision guide over for a moment. I want to talk about this statement area. I can do this by. Write that on the back. I can do this by. And then write what I'm writing. This draft revision guide will not work if you do not follow this. So if Joey were looking at capitalization errors and I just sort of left him to fill out this worksheet on his own, he'd probably say, well, I will check for capitalization errors. I can do this by looking for capitalization mistakes. Well, how do you do that? And Joey might look through his paper and not really see what he's looking for. But now he knows specifically where to look in his paper. And that'll help him make this a faster process and probably more effective. So make sure that when you're filling in these blanks, they are filled in with specific, concrete tasks. Otherwise, this will not work. All right, aside from, I'll tell you what, let's gloss over the comma errors right now. Let's look at pretty much everything else. So who's going to volunteer the next one? Miranda. Spelling errors, all right. Who's dealing with spelling errors on their list? Okay, pretty much the entire class. Miranda, talk to me about your spelling errors. What sort of spelling errors do you make? Is there a pattern, words that you have problems with? What's that?
When, like, for dancing, I put E-I-N-G, and then for the letter A, I just wrote the N.
Oh, that's actually a different sort of error. Do you see where my mark is S-P-E-L-L?
Yeah.
That means that you didn't spell it incorrectly. It means that I would like you to spell out the entire word 8 instead of using the numeral 8. Okay, so that on the Muggs checklist would be listed as number numeral confusion. Okay, so you misspelled dancing, right? Let's, Miranda, let's see if we can find a pattern. You do this when you should do this. Can you talk to me about other spelling errors you make? Do you have that page in your writer's notebook that's generated with the list of all your spelling errors?
Yeah.
Now you know why I have that. If any of the rest of you are dealing with the same issue, you should be looking at the same page.
There.
Okay?
I spell it P-H-E-I-R.
So we'll just list the there confusion.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
Choosing.
And did you do the same thing with choosing that you did with dancing?
Yeah.
Anything else?
Everywhere. I didn't W-A-R-E.
Miranda, just from the data that's on the board right now, can you tell me one specific concrete task that you could do to improve your spelling? Do you see a pattern?
Yeah.
So what are you going to look for in your paper? But you're going to look just for ing words, right? You're going to look for ing words. Look for ing words and remove that E right before the I. So glancing through an entire journal entry, looking for ing words as you're going through quickly and maybe you're using your finger to go line by line, that's really going to take you a minute, maybe. And then you correct those, and then they're done. So that's perhaps for you task number one. I can do this by and remember, this is Miranda's. All of you need to tailor your revision strategies to your own spelling mistakes. I can do this by checking ing words. With the data you've given me, Miranda, what else can you do specifically? I'd look for the there. I'd look for every there and double check them. So Miranda and everybody else, you're looking for patterns. Don't just say, I'll check for spelling, and don't say I'm going to use spell check, because all of these tasks, remember what I told you, must be able to be done without a computer. So don't just say I'm going to look for spelling errors, or I will check a dictionary, because how do you know that the word's misspelled? Many of you spell words and you didn't understand that you were misspelling them because you don't know the correct spelling. So a dictionary is not going to help you. Looking at patterns will help you. Miranda, any other patterns that you see? Mm-hmm. Oh, so you do that with everything with that? Good. Not good that you do it again, but good that you noted. Checking where? Words. Miranda now has 3 specific concrete tasks. What happens if Miranda keeps doing this journal entry after journal entry, paper after paper after paper for the rest of the year? Yeah, which means she stops making the mistake in the first place. Very good, Landon. So Miranda and everybody else, this might seem a little cumbersome, might seem to take time, but the more you do it, the more all of this process just becomes ingrained in your brain, and you don't make mistakes in the first place. So it all works. All right, that's Miranda. Somebody else talk to me about your particular spelling errors. What else do you misspell? Trevor, you were one of the ones that was writing down about looking in the dictionary. What's your spelling error problem? What have you misspelled in the past?
Dollars.
Dollars?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you spell dollars? What else? What else? Not much of a pattern here, is there? You got the there pattern, just like Miranda, so you can check for their words. So that should be part of your I can do this by statement. I can do this by checking for their words. How are you going to prevent against that? How can Trevor prevent against the dollars mistake? Joey? Joey, did you know that this was a misspelling? If you read that, would you be able to flag that it's a misspelling? So what can Trevor do? No, I understand that. That's how he corrects it. But how does he find it in the first place? Reading it back would really help if he did it himself. But Miranda, once again, let's say that he doesn't know that that's misspelled. I mean, Miranda, have you ever misspelled a word you didn't know you misspelled the word? You didn't really know how to spell it? Yeah, me too. So, and that happens for me with certain words where, like, occasion, where I forget how many S's and C's and crazy stuff like that, and it took me forever to figure out dessert till somebody gave me a quick hint on how to spell the difference between desert and dessert. So maybe he doesn't know. What am I getting to with asking Joey the question that I asked? Harold? Not necessarily. Colby? You could. Say it louder, Andrew. Give it to somebody else. And when you give it to somebody else, Andrew, what are you telling them before they read it? Thank you. Check my spelling. If I give my draft to Andrew and the only thing I tell him is, Andrew, I don't care about capitalization, I don't care about anything else right now. If you see that, that's great, but I really want you to look at my spelling because I'm concerned about that. Then Andrew can read through my journal entry probably in about 2 or 3 minutes looking just for spelling, and Andrew would have picked this up. So a good concrete strategy when you're in a bind, but I don't want you to use this for all of them. Don't want to use that verb. Trevor will now complete 2 tasks when he's checking for spelling. One, he's going to glance through quickly himself for the theirs and double check to make sure that he's doing that properly. The second one, to prevent the dollars mistake, is to ask somebody to read it. Or possibly somebody mentioned read it himself. That would help. But we don't always see what somebody else would see. More spelling errors. Yes, Aaron. Oh, good, good, good. Somebody tell me what other similar formations students create. So Aaron's gonna look for gonna. Yes. Thank you. Be I love it. I can always count on you for a correct answer. Kinda. Absolutely. What should gonna be? Going to. What should kinda be? I don't really see this, but I could imagine somebody doing this. I see these first two. I don't see woulda, although I hear woulda. But here's the question. What should woulda be? Yeah. Like this? Thank you. Good. I'm glad you caught that, folks. You'd be surprised at how many people don't know that they're actually saying this, which means they're actually saying this. So either of those will work, but this will not. Aaron, any other spelling mistakes that you're facing besides the gonna issue? Any other patterns that you can identify? Okay. Any other spelling patterns, misspelling patterns that anyone can talk about? Chase.
Instead of spelling the number out, I just put 2.
Okay. So you're using the number instead of the numeral or the numeral instead of the number. That's a different sort of issue, which I'd like to get to in a moment. Let's see if we're done with the spelling issues. Anybody else finding it difficult to find their spelling pattern? In other words, Miranda, well, we are,
I didn't like. How do you like try to find it like when you're reading it? Like you don't give it to somebody else.
well, you have two ways of looking right now, right? You're looking for everything that is ing. That's your first step, is to look through every line and look for the ings. That you can find, right? Okay. Your second step is to look for every word that appears to be there. Okay? And what was your other step? If you want a third step on spelling, it might be to give it to somebody else. I will allow you to share your journal entries with other people since that's part of the revision process. If you've got the time to do it and somebody's available, I will allow you to do that as part of the process. So remember, even a graded piece of work, I'm telling you that you can share with somebody else to help you out because that's part of responsible writing. Any other spelling problems you're having, Miles?
Decision.
Yeah? How do you spell it? Sure, I could see that. How do you spell decide? So if that's the case, how should you spell decisions? Yep. You've transposed. So the word by the way, transpose means basically to flip. You've transposed the C and the S because you have forgotten that decision is the noun form of decide. But you know how to spell decide. So if you're ever in a bind like that, transform the word into a spelling that you're more familiar with, and that can probably help you. But if decision is one of your weak points, then put it on your list. If you find it crop up again and again. My weak point, I might have shared this with you folks before, my weak point was this word. Could not spell that word for the life of me. Misspelled it every time. Thankfully, I had a bunch of teachers who didn't care. You're not so fortunate. My problem came here. I would spell it like this, unfortunately, because I was pronouncing it incorrectly. What do you think helped me? I'm talking about Miles and transformations. If he sees decision, he should see the word decide. If I see unfortunately, what word should I see? Fortune. Problem solved. Because I know how to spell fortune. So I just make sure that inside here, I'm spelling fortune correctly, and then I add the ately and the on the beginning, and I never misspelled it again. And still to this day, whenever I spell it, I've got to think fortune, because it's some sort of blind spot in my brain. So Miles, perhaps that can help you. Just think of decide when you're thinking of decisions. Okay, and Chase, we'll start tomorrow with your number numeral confusion. And we've gotten through only 2 today, but we'll see how many we can reach tomorrow, and hopefully this process will go a little faster. So by the end of tomorrow, you have a completed revision guide all ready for revision work in the journal entry.